Hello everybody and welcome back to part 2 of the Seraphon book overview. This is on the Warscrolls, so I pretty much made one giant video and then the file got corrupted and I then recorded a second part and I recorded so much my voice was starting to give out, so now I've taken a few hours, I'm feeling good again, and I'm ready to go over the Warscrolls. So, we got the Slann Starmaster. He's pretty much the same in terms of stats: 5 move, 4 save, 9 bravery, 7 wounds. I believe his basic attack was still the same, the Azure Lightning. It is a 6, 4, 3, -1 damage. He has Arcane Vassal, which I think he had, either he had or someone else had. I don't remember, but this was definitely a thing you could do, which is like when the model attempts to cast a spell before making the casting roll, you can pick either one friendly Skink wizard that is within 12 inches of the model or one friendly oracle anywhere on the battlefield. If you do so and the spell is successfully cast and not unbound, you must measure the range and visibility for that spell from the Skink wizard or oracle. Although the oracle can be anywhere on the battlefield. That's really good. That was definitely not in the old one. So if you have an oracle out there, the Troglodyte with the oracle on it, he can just run around and you can cast spells through him. That's really cool, actually. I like that a lot. At the start of your hero phase, roll 2 dice. For each 4-up, you get a command point. That's very good, with how important command points are. Add 1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding rolls for the model. In addition, this model can attempt to unbind enemy spells that are cast anywhere on the battlefield. Attempt to blah, blah, blah. So you get +1 to cast, unbind, and spelling. That's very good. By the way, if you missed the first part, I have the link at the start of the video if you missed it, and it's in the description if you'd rather click down there. The model's a wizard, can cast 3 spells, unbind 3 spells. Knows Arcane Bolt, Mystic Shield, and Comet's Call, which used to be a Lord Kroak spell, and now it's just been given to the Slann and the Oracle, which is awesome, because it's a really fun spell. Casting value 7. If you cast it, you pick up to D3 enemy units, and they take D3 mortal wounds. If you roll a 10+, you pick up to D6 different units and do D3. I think the most damage I ever did with this was 5 units suffered D3 mortal wounds. So it hits pretty hard, especially with the fact that you don't have to have vision of them. It just, meteors fall from the sky and hit stuff. And then Gift of the Heavens, casting value. Oh, it's a command ability. You pick something, and units, until your next hero phase, that unit can fly and add 1 to save rolls for attacks made with missile weapons that target it. So that's neat. It's okay. Then we get to Lord Kroak, which he got a pretty big revamp. So he no longer has his crazy bravery thing. Instead, he has 7 wounds, 4-up save, and he gets a crazy AoE attack if this autofocus ever decides to work. Autofocus, please. There we go. Azurite Force Barrier at 3-inch range. 3 to hit, 3 to wound, -1 damage. And if we take a look below, he has Arcane Vassal, just like the Slann Starmaster does. But his Force Barrier, attack characteristic of the Force Barrier is equal to the number of enemy models within 3 inches of the attacking model when the number of attacks made with this weapon is determined. So if you're getting swarmed by like Skinks or goblins or anything, he's going to do a big AoE explosion and just probably roast them all. So that seems like Lord Kroak is now like an AoE master, because on top of that, he gets Comet's Call still, so he still has that. And then he also gets Celestial Deliverance, which can cast this spell up to 3 times in the same hero phase. Casting value of 7, then 8, then 9 on the 3rd time. And each time it's successfully cast, pick up to 3 different enemy units within 10 inches. And roll a dice for each unit. On a 2+, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. If it's a Chaos Demon, they automatically just take 3 wounds. Which is pretty crazy, especially because this used to be, I think it only worked on 1 unit. Now it works on 3 units. And he already gets +1 to casting, dispelling, and unbinding just because he's a Slann. And on top of that, at the start of your hero phase, roll 3 dice for this model. For each 4-up, you receive a command point. So he's a super command point generator. And then he also has Dead for innumerable ages. Roll a dice. Each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this model on a 4-up, it is negated. So that's just all wounds. Mortal, not mortal. So it essentially gives him like 14 wounds on average, but he could have more than that if you're rolling well, less than that if you're not rolling well. But still, I think it's a fun mechanic. I think this makes Lord Kroak really cool. And they even dropped his points from like 400 down to like 300. It's crazy. So I feel like Lord Kroak is almost a must-have in your Star Allegiance army. Next up, we got the Saurus Old Blood. He's got a 5 move, 7 wound, 3-up save, 8 bravery. I think he used to have a 4-up save. And a lot of characters now have 3-up saves. Saurus Old Blood, the Sunblood, the Eternity Warden, they all got +1 to their save. But they did lose their shield for ignoring the -1 Ren, so it kind of balances it out. But I think the save is actually better from what I've been hearing. He's got all his weapons. I believe some of these got tweaked a little bit, nothing crazy. If an unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a Celestite weapon is a 6, that attack scores 2 hits instead of 1. And that seems to be on a lot of these models where the Celestite weapons, if they hit with a 6, they do 2 hits instead of 1. He also has a command ability, Wrath of the Seraphon. You can use this command ability in the combat phase. If you do so, pick a friendly source within 18 inches. If a friendly model with this command ability, until the end of that phase, you can add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by that unit. So a good way to buff their hit rolls. The Sunblood is 5, 7, 3, 8, so same stats. He has Celestite War Mace, which is 6 attacks, 3s, -1, 1 damage. I think he used to have 5 attacks, so I think they gave him 1 more attack. And his Fearsome Jaws are now a 4x3 instead of a 4x4, which was what a lot of the ones were in the previous version. And he also has the unmodified hit rolls for an attack made by this model. It's a 6, scores 2 hits instead of 1. And on wound rolls, if it's a 6, it does a mortal wound. So he gets double time there, getting bonuses to his hits and his wound rolls. So he's a really good one to buff up. He also has the command ability. Pick an enemy unit within 12 inches of a friendly model with this command ability, and you add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by friendly Saurus models that target that unit. So that's really good if he's going with Saurus Warriors or Temple Guard or just any Saurus. To get +1 to just your wound rolls in general, even for the Saurus Old Blood, which we're going to take a look at next. He is, table move. He's got 12 wounds, 4 save, 8 bravery. A lot of people wanted him to have a 3 save, but his attacks have gotten a lot better, so I can see why maybe they didn't do it. The Sunbolt Gauntlet's pretty much the same. The Sunstone War Spear is now Celestite weapon. It is a 3x3. By 3, -1, 3 damage. I think that got kind of changed. Oh my god, please. There we go, autofocus. The clawed forelimbs are now 2 attacks. To hit, they are tabling 3, 4, 5. Then 3 to wound, no Ren, 2 damage. And then massive jaws are 3 attacks, 4 to hit, 3 to wound, -1, 5 damage. It used to be 5 attacks for 3 damage. Now it's 3 attacks for 5 damage, tabling down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you add 1 to wound from, say, the Saurus Sunblood, say he marks something and you attack, that's wounding on pretty much 2s for everything. So that is really strong. As long as you're just able to hit, you can do insane amounts of damage with the Saurus Old Blood and Carnosaur. He now also has add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made by Sunbolt Gauntlet targeting Chaos Demon. I don't know if that used to be on him. I think it just did bonus damage to Chaos Demons. If an enemy model is slain by wounds inflicted to this... So now that it used to be if you killed something with his massive jaws, I believe, he could run and charge. Now it's just if you kill something with this model... he can run and charge. So that's quite the buff in terms of Blood Frenzy. If the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with this is 6, it gets, same thing we've been seeing. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with massive jaws if the target has a wound characteristic of 7 or less. That's really nice. So if you're fighting like a weak hero or just a bunch of like, battle line stuff, he's gonna get +1 to hit. So he could be hitting on like 2s for almost everything. And then massive jaws would be like 3s and 2s if they're attacking a Sunblood target, which is also pretty good. Subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units while they're within 3 inches of any friendly units with ability. That's the terror. And then command ability can add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by a unit, which I believe he can just put on himself. So another command ability. So that would even make him hitting on 2s and 3s, or just 2s and 2s even. Wow. So pretty good, I'd say. Then we have the Saurus Eternity Warden. 5 movement, 3 save, 8 bravery, 7 wounds. He now has his Starstone Mace, 3 attacks, 3 is to hit, 3 is to wound, -1, D3 damage. I believe that used to be 2 damage. So a bit of a buff, depending on how you roll. Because for the most part, I think it's a little bit of a buff, because for the most part, you're going to roll 2 or 3 damage. So you would either do the same or more. And occasionally you would do 1, which would be worse. But I think on average, you're going to do a little more. And then his Fearsome Jaws are now 4x3 instead of 4x4. And there's that Coalesce buff for Jaws. So that helps him out as well. If an unmodified hit roll for an attack is a 6, so he has that with the Celestite weapon. Does 2 instead of 1 on 6s. Then roll a dice before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly Slann while it's within 3 inches of a friendly unit. On 2, you must allocate that wound or mortal wound to a friendly unit with this ability that is within 3 inches of a Slann instead of to that Slann. So it pretty much has an ability to soak up damage that would go to the Slann. So he does his job a little better. I think that used to be 2 inches. Now it's 3 inches. You can use this command ability within 18 inches until the end of the phase. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by Saurus Guard. So he strictly can buff Saurus Guard hit, which we'll move down to. And praise Jesus, they have 2 wounds. It's a Christmas miracle. They do lose some save, though. They no longer have all their save bonuses. So they have a 4-up save, 2 wounds, which I think will be okay. The biggest issue with them was the 1 wound. I mean, you would just get shredded by mortal wounds. So I think just having 2 wounds is going to be pretty nice. You get 1 to be an alpha. Their War Drummers now can reroll charge rolls instead of whatever it was before. I think it was like you can run and charge or something like that. And then the Icon Bearer, subtract 1 from bravery within 6 inches for enemies. And then they have the ability, the same one, to selflessly protect the Slann. So pretty good if you're trying to keep your Slann alive. But I mean, if you buff them with the Eternity Warden, they got 2 attacks, 2x3s, -1 damage. And that's, if you got 5, 10, 11 attacks, if you got a group of 5. And you could probably buff that, honestly, with a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, you can make the Saurus Guard pretty decent now. So that's good. Saurus Scar-Veteran. So this is, I believe, literally just a Scar-Veteran, which is on this page on a Carnosaur. So the Scar-Veteran, I'll just take a look at this because we already know what the Carnosaur does. He's got the cold one, attacks with snapping jaws. Unmodified hit rolls 6, do the thing. And his buff is that until the end of that phase, if the unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon sword by a Saurus is 6, it scores 2 hits. So you can give friendly Saurus, like the Saurus Warriors or the Temple Guard, the buff that a lot of these guys have with the Celestite weapons, making it so they get double attacks, or 2 attacks instead of 1 on 6s. So that's really nice as well. And then he's got his War Pick that he attacks with. But I think here he's got Warblade, War Spear, and Great Blade. So he's got some more choices on the Carnosaur. His Great Blade is 3 attacks, 4x3, -1, 2 damage. War Spear is 6 attacks, 3x3, 1 damage. And the Warblade is also the same, but the War Spear has an extra inch of range. And if we go down here, he actually has an ability with the War Spear, add 1 to the damage characteristic of this model's Celestite War Spear if he made a charge move in the same turn. So you can actually get 6 attacks, 3x3s, 2 damage. And you're probably going to be charging a lot with the Carnosaur because he can run and charge once you kill something. So really, the War Spear seems to be like the ideal weapon to choose here, I would think at least. And then he has his command ability making it so you get 2 hits on 6s. And there he is. Saurus Warriors got a big buff. They get a +1 to their saves. They're saving on 4s now. Their clubs now have -1 rend. And they also have it so in packs of 15, they get +1 attack. So it gives you incentive to make big blocks of Saurus Warriors, which is pretty nice. And I'm probably going to do that. So I'll finally get to use Saurus Warriors after they've been sitting on the sidelines for nearly a year. Up here, Astrolith Bear. He definitely got changed a bit. I think all his base stats are the same. He got the Jaws buff. But the big thing here, add 1 to casting rolls for Seraphon Wizards that are within 12 inches, which I think he already had that, but I think it might have been 8. And then in addition, add 6 to the range of spells by Seraphon Wizards. But now, it used to be reroll hit rolls. Now it's a 6-up, or on a 6, you do a Feel No Pain. That wound or mortal wound is negated. So imagine running this guy next to Lord Kroak, so you get the 4-up Feel No Pain, then the 6-up Feel No Pain. I guess you could do 6, then 4 if it's easier, but that's a spicy Mamma Mia. So this guy is almost a must-take with Lord Kroak just to make him even more invincible. And he's just he's going to give you summoning points and everything, so he's a little more defensive instead of offensive now. And I think that's how he should be, right? Because, I mean, if you always want to put this guy next to your offensive units because you're re-rolling hit rolls, but it feels like he's the type of guy that's supposed to sit back, hold up the big Astrolith banner and then help casting and help the Slann out. So I think this definitely works a little more to what he's supposed to do. Saurus Knights, as we were saying earlier, I think they got a bit of a change. I think all their base stats are the same, I think. But they now have... they can reroll charge rolls with the drummer, which is nice for the Knights. I don't know if a lot of their weapon attacks changed. Maybe they did a little bit. The Jaws get impacted because they can be part of the Coalesced Army, so they're going to get more Jaw attacks, which is always good for them. And then they're going to add 1 to the damage characteristic of this unit's Celestite War Spears if this unit made a charge move in the same turn. So kind of like the other guy, you get that +1 damage from the War Spear. So you're doing 2 attacks, 4x3, 2 damage. And then you got the Snapping Jaws coming in with more attacks, and they're powerful Jaws, so you actually get a decent amount of attacks. And then maybe you put on you buff them with the thing so their 6s do 2 hits. So I mean, there's a lot of ways to buff them up, but I think it actually makes them pretty decent, right? Like, they're now a valid option. They're at least worth trying now compared to the old Saurus Knights, I would say. Next up, we got the Skink Starseer. He's got 5/5/5/6, and they definitely changed him a lot. He used to be very bad. He used to not even have this range attack. They gave him an 18-inch range attack, 2x3 by 3, -1 D3 damage. That's not bad at all. That's pretty solid. And then he's got his melee staff, 2 attacks, 4x3 by -1 D3. Still not too bad. You're not going to want to fight melee that much anyway. At the start of your hero phase, roll dice, 4-up, you get a command point. Always good. Start of your charge phase, you can pick a friendly Seraphon unit within 12. If you do so, you can make it so they can charge 18 instead of 12 inches, and you roll 3d6 instead of 2d6. That's very nice. That's actually really good for a lot of things that, it seems like there's a lot of things that are going to be charging, so that's pretty nice. It can cast a spell, it can de-spell, and Control Fate makes it so on a casting value of 7, pick a unit with an 18. If is an enemy unit, subtract 1 from save rolls for attacks that target that unit, and then if it's a friendly Seraphon unit, add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target that unit. So that's very nice. I think that that used to be on the Star Priest? I think that used to be a Star Priest spell. So now they gave it to the Starseer as well as some other stuff. So the Starseer is actually a pretty solid unit now, and it can finally come off my shelf of gathering dust and do something. He also got reduced in points pretty nicely. The Star Priest. Speaking of him, he's got a ranged attack now. He didn't before. It's not that great, only does 1 damage, but hey, it's something. And he's got, on a 5+, you get a command point, so he also has a command point generator. He has the Serpent Staff, picking it within 12 inches until your next hero phase. Unmodified wound rolls for attacks made by that unit is a 6. It inflicts a mortal wound. Wow. That is really good. So you can throw that on... throw that on a thing of 20 Saurus warriors, throw it on, you know, a big stack of whatever, and then you roll all these dice, and bam, 6s are mortal wounds. And then you got the Sunblood already doing that as well. You can do so many mortal wounds. Wow. That is really good. And I wonder if you can stack that on top of other mortal wound things, so make it so like the Saurus Knights get this in addition to their mortal wounds from 6s. So you're doing 2 mortal wounds per thing. Oh my god. That's, I think that's allowed, right? That's gotta be. And then he can cast a spell, Dispel. Blazing Starlight, cast value of 6. Pick an enemy unit with an 18. Visible to them until your next hero phase. Subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by that unit. So he's even got a little debuff. So he can buff, he can debuff. He generates command points. He can cast spells. He's got some attacks. Like, he's honestly really good. I wouldn't even mind running 2 of these. Like, wow, that is... Even just for the buffs alone, for that mortal wound buff, that is so good. And I think he even went down in points. Like, wow. Then we have the Skink Oracle on Troglodyte. This guy got an insane buff. I'm actually building him right now because... Here he is. I'm building him. I got in my old start collecting I had that I was waiting for this to come out before I built anything, and I'm glad I did because he's good. So he's got same 12, 4, 6, 10 movement going down to 6 on the table. He has a Noxious Spittle, D3 attacks, starting at 18 inches of range, going down to 6. 3 hit, 3 wound, no rend, 2 damage. He's got a Divining Rod, 2 attacks, 4 hit, 4 wound, -1 D3 damage. 2 attacks, 4s, 3s, 2 damage, and 3 attacks, 4s by 2, 3, 4, 5 on the table, 2 damage. So some big things with this guy. He's a wizard, so he's an oracle, and he's a skink on top of that. So if any wounds are inflicted by this model's Noxious Spittle, if any wounds are inflicted by the Noxious Spittle until the end of the turn, you can reroll charge rolls for this model, so that's very nice. Add 1 to casting, dispelling, unbinding, so he gets +1 to all that. He also serves as the vassal, like we learned earlier, for the Slann, so he can cast spells through the Slann. That's another thing. He can regen. In your hero phase, you can roll a dice for the model. If you do so on a 2-up, heal D3 wounds allocated to this model. That's so good. He can literally just heal practically every turn. Just be like, up, I feel like healing. Whoop, I'm up. Like, wow. Subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units while they're within 3. Venomous Spittle. If unmodified wound roll for attack made with this model's Noxious Spittle or Venomous Jaws is 6, that attack inflicts a mortal wound in addition to any normal damage. So that would be 6 if you roll a D3 and get a 3, or a 5 and a 6 and get 3, and then you get the Venomous Jaws. That's 6 attacks for potential mortal wounds, which is always good. And then he knows Comet's Call, the really strong Comet spell we were talking about earlier. So this guy is just... I feel like I want to include him in almost every army I make. Like, he is so good now. And thank God, because before he was not good at all. So really big buffs for the Skink Oracle. Probably one of the biggest buffs in the book. Then we got the Skink Priest. 8, 4, 5, 6. He's got a Starbolt, 2 attacks, 4 by 3 by -1, 1 damage. And his melee staff, which is bad. In your hero phase, pick a friendly skink unit, hold it in 12 on a 3-up. Until your next hero phase, that unit can run and still shoot and or charge in the same turn. And you could add 1 to their save rolls for attacks that target that unit. That's really good. So you just buff up their save roll. They're going to run and shoot. Or they could charge. Like, wow, that's very good. And then on top of that, he's got the command ability that we looked at earlier. Or maybe this was in the previous video I did. Until your next hero phase, you could add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by that unit. Woo! This little guy is another good buff machine. So all these magic casters actually have really good buffs. especially a lot of +1 to save and +1 to hit. So it makes sense why they got rid of the ignore rend, because I think if they kept that with all these buffs, you wouldn't even be damaging these guys. And on top of that, they have the -1 damage thing if you're in the coalesce. So wowee. Skinks definitely got changed a bit. They add one of their save rolls for attacks made against ones armed with star bucklers, so they're on a 5-up save. If they got the javelins or the bolt spitters and choose the shield. Then add one of the attack characteristic of weapons used by this unit with 15 or more. It used to be 20, so that's a nice little buff for them. The biggest thing with them is they lose the retreat ability, which I don't really mind because I hated the mechanic of constantly having to run in and then retreat. It just felt kind of boring. It won me games, don't get me wrong, but there's just something, not that fun about, like, I run in, I retreat, okay, point's mine. I don't know, but I'm down with this. They make Skink a little more combat-esque, kind of like skirmishy battle line, and I'm fine with that. There's plenty of ways to buff them up now as well, so I mean, you give them +1 to hit, and you get multiple attacks. I mean, then your javelins are going 4x4, and if you're attacking a Sunblood unit, or does that count, the Sunblood unit? Or is that only Saurus? Hold on, this is important. Saurus. Okay, never mind. So you can still get them to 4x4s with javelin with 2 attacks each. I guess even 3 attacks with some other stuff. So I mean, Skink's got some potential. Chameleon Skinks are a big one. These guys, they're dropped in points. They've got a lot of the same stats, but the biggest stat for them is their 6s now do mortal wounds. So it used to be when you hit with a 6, that attack does, I think, double damage and then 3 damage if it was like a Chaos Demon. The worst part about that was half the time you had it was like, 4 to wound? So it's like, most of the time you wouldn't even hit with it anyway, so it just felt bad. But now, just getting the initial mortal wound from it makes it pretty nice. You can get some mortal wounds out there with the Chameleon Skinks popping off the side of the board anywhere. Which is almost like a little teleport when they pop in. The Salamander Hunting Pack. Now, this is a big one. Salamanders have gotten changed a lot. So now they're in a pack with the Chameleon Skinks. Or not the Chameleon Skinks, the Skink Handlers. And no longer do they have the eye poke mechanic, which kind of sucks. I thought that was fun. When the Celestite Goads would roll a 5, or when they'd roll a 6 to hit, they would automatically wound. I thought that was funny, but that's alright, because now they're in a pack. The Salamander, instead of a Skink Handler, has 3 wounds and is armed with the Stream of Fire and Burning Jaws attack. So that means if someone attacks the Salamander and they deal like 2 wounds to you, you can just kill off 2 Skinks instead of the Salamander. So you can push those wounds to the other guys. So I think that's the big reason why they did that. But then you also got the Bravery, which is kind of low, so... still, I think it's a nice little change. And the big thing with Salamanders, it used to be, I think, 1 attack, 3x3, -2 d6. Now it's 4 attacks, 3x3, -2 d3. So you're going to be hitting with more of them. And on top of that, they have a melee weapon, Burning Jaws now. 3 attacks, 3x3, -2 d3 damage. And if an unmodified hit roll for an attack made with a Stream of Fire, Burning Jaws is 6, the attack inflicts d3 mortal wounds on the target unit and the attack sequence ends. Woo! So these seem really good, to the point where I actually bought 2 more to have 3 Salamanders, even though I wish they were plastic and not resin, but it's all good. Then we have the Razordon Hunting Pack, which is kind of a similar situation. There we go. It's 2d6, 3x4, 1 damage. And Spiketail, 3x3, by 3, -2, 2 damage. And they actually keep the same volley of spikes, and now they get the melee attack added in, so a pretty good buff for the Razordons. And now, it used to be on a 4-up, you can attack with your volley of spikes when somebody charges. Now, it's just if something charges in, you get to roll a d6 and do that to them. So I like that more. You automatically get that attack instead of hoping you do, and then if you don't, you're like, well, I'm screwed. And then improve the rend characteristic by 1 if there's an attack made with volley of spikes if the distance to the target is 6 inches or less. So most of the time, you're going to get the -1 rend on that as well. So Razordon's still pretty good, if not better. Kroxigor's getting buffs. Hooray, Kroxigor buffs. So Kroxigor's 8447. I believe that's all the same. What's not the same is the -1 rend. Thank God. They now have 4 attacks, 4x3, -1, 2 damage. Moonhammer's the same, and the Vice-like Jaws are now 4x3. I think the old ones were 4x4. I'm pretty sure. Maybe not, but either way. If an unmodified hit roll for an attack made with Vice-like Jaws is a 6, it also inflicts a mortal wound instead of doing that weird-ass thing that happened before where you did like a roll-off and everything. So that's pretty neat. And then Moonhammer's still the same. Add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made with this unit while it is wholly within 6 inches of any skink units. It used to be, I think, 3 inches. And it gave them something else. I don't think it was +1 to hit, though, but that's still pretty good. That means they're hitting on 3x3 -1, 2 damage. And does that buff the Jaws as well? Oh yeah, so it buffs the Jaws. So you would get an extra Jaw attack from being in a Coalesce, and it would be 2 attacks, 3x3 -1, 1 damage, 6 is mortal wounds. So Kroxigor's definitely a lot better. Bastiladon, man, these guys got changed. So they used to ignore all rend, 4-up mortal wound save, and 3-up save, just in general. And your attack was 20 inches, 2d6 attacks, 4x3, -1, 2 damage. Now, they have a 1-up save, then a 2-up, then a 3-up, then a 4-up, then a 4-up, depending on their wounds. So I think it's just a 2-up in match play. Until you're at 5 to 6 wounds, and then it's a 3-up, which is still really strong. And now, you have the Solar Engine, 4 more inches, and it automatically gets 9 attacks, which is really good, because I will tell you, the amount of times I rolled those 2d6 and got under a 4 is way too many. And there's nothing more demoralizing than rolling 2d6 against a Bloodthirster and getting like a 3 and being like, well, okay. So I think that's another reason they're not doing the Thunderquake stuff of re-rolling wound rolls, because you'd probably be destroying a bunch of shit really easily. And you probably still will. And then the other change coming in. Before I say that, add 1 of the damage. Each successful attack, Solar Engine targets Chaos Demons, so you still get the 3 damage against Chaos Demons. Arc of Sotek, instead of the weird snake thing, 4s by 6s, 18 attacks, unmodified hit rolls of attack made with the Arc of Sotek is a 6. It inflicts a mortal wound, so you're pretty much just fishing for mortal wounds with the Arc of Sotek. And I think that's honestly pretty fun. I might just build an Arc of Sotek skink just to do that. Because, I mean, honestly, it's fun to just roll 18 dice. I mean, if you got 2, you get 36 dice, and 6s are mortal wounds. And who knows, maybe you'll get 10 6s or something. Either way. Pretty fun. I honestly like the Bastiladon changes. I know some people are kind of like, but they also went down like 60 points, so I'm fine with that. Then we got Pterodon Riders. They get +2 to their movement. 3 wounds, 6 save, 5 bravery. They get their Star Strike Javelin, 2 attacks, 4s by 3s, 1 damage. Then 6-inch D6, 4x3, 1 damage. And melee, 4 attacks, 4x4, 1 damage. You get a Pterodon Alpha. Once per battle, after this unit finishes a move, you can pick an enemy unit. Roll 1 dice for each model in the unit that passed across any models from the enemy unit. For each 4+ enemy suffers D3 mortal wounds. So you literally just fly over stuff and then carpet bomb them. And here's the big thing. You get the Pterodon Chief with him. So he's a hero. And he's 16 move, 5, 6, 6. And so he's got a couple more wounds than normal. And he subtracts 1 from hit rolls for attacks made with melee weapons that cannot fly and target this model. He gets 3 attacks, 3s, 4s, -1, 1 damage, and 4, 4, 4. So a lot of melee weapons, but his big thing is his command ability, which makes it so that carpet bomb thing goes off on 2s instead of 4s, which is very good. That is a massive difference, and it pretty much makes it so you're probably going to get those to go off. So I feel like you got to run one of those. Ripperdactyls, same situation. They kind of got nerfed, though. The swooping mechanic was pretty old and weird, and it's like, you're always going to swoop, man. Like, you're always swooping. 1 attack, 4x4. 3 attacks, 4x3, 1 damage. They kept the Blot Toad, which makes me very happy. At the start of the combat phase, you can set up 1 Blot Toad marker next to an enemy unit. If you do so, you can reroll hit rolls for attacks made by units that are wholly within 6 inches of that enemy unit. At the end of the combat phase, remove the Blot Toad marker. It cannot be used again in that battle. So that's a fun way to use the Blot Toad. It used to be like you had to roll and move him around and everything. So this is just like, I'm using my Toad. And each unit gets a Blot Toad. Then, if unmodified hit rolls of attacks made with Tearing Jaws 6, it scores 2 hits instead of 1. So that's nice. As for the Ripperdactyl Chief, he also has that. He has a +1 save, since he doesn't have the subtract 1 from hit roll thing that guy has. And he also has a command ability. Pick a friendly model with this command ability until the end of the phase. Add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by the Ripperdactyl units that are wholly within 18 inches. So it feels like, I don't think there's any limit to this. You can literally use this like 5 times, and he'll have 9 attacks, 3x4, -1, 1 damage, and 9 attacks, 4x3, 1 damage. These guys will have 8 attacks, 4x3, 1 damage, and 5 attacks, 4x4, 1 damage. And I think the Alpha can get another one with the Spear. So, I mean, you're actually getting a lot of attacks with these command abilities if that's what you're going for. So, even though they did get nerfed a bit, I still think they're pretty fun. You just need command points, as we've kind of been going over and realizing this whole time. And finally, we got the Stegadons and the Engine of the Gods. So, Stegadon. Move is 8 down to 4. Wounds are 10. You get +2 if you're in that one Star Host or Thunderquake thing. I forget what it's called. Thunder Lizard, I think. You got the Javelins from the Skinks. Sky Streak Bow. Used to be 25, now it's 24. 3 attacks, 3x3, -1, 1 damage. Or no, 3 damage. It used to be D3, now it's just 3. And I think it used to be 3x4, now it's 3x3. So a big buff to the Sky Streak Bow. Then you've got the Sunfire Throwers. Do not use attack sequence for that. Instead, roll a number of dice equal to the number of models from the target unit within 8 inches. For each 5 up, they take a mortal wound. So that's a way to just burn through rats and goblins and stuff. Then you got all the melee weapons, which have had big changes. You got the War Spear, if you got the Skink Chief on top. And then you got Massive Horns, 2 attacks, 3x3, -1, 4 damage, going down to 1, tabling. Grinding Jaws, 2 attacks, 3x3, -1, 2 damage. Crushing Stomps, 5 attacks, 3x3, -1, 2 damage, going down to 1. That used to be, I think, 3d6s, and then it was like a 4x3 no rend, 1 damage. So, Grinding Jaws is even a new thing. I think they added in just to give the Stegadon a Jaws attack that they can buff up. So, Stegadons definitely do a lot more melee damage than what they used to, and I think that's pretty cool. I like the fact that they're going with the dinosaur theme and making it so it's like, you got these big dinosaurs, go attack with these big dinosaurs. I love that. Model can include a Skink Chief with a Meteoric War Spear. If it does, has the hero keyword, but any command traits or artifact powers this model has only affect attacks made by the Chief. Then you get, at the start of command phase, pick an enemy unit. Then 3 inches of this model. It has up to 5 models. If you do so until the end of the phase, add 1 to save rolls for attacks made by that unit that target this model. So that's pretty good for staying alive. You can reroll battle shock tests for friendly Skinks within 18 inches. Roll 1 dice for each enemy unit, so within 1 inch of this model when the model finishes a charge. On a 3-up, they take D3 mortal wounds, so that's really nice, especially if you roll well on that. And the command ability, if you do, pick a friendly Skink unit within 24 inches of a friendly Stegadon hero with this command ability. Add 1 to the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by that Skink unit. Cannot benefit from this more than once per phase. So another add 1 to attacks. So I mean, you can make these guys do so much damage. It's insane with all the command abilities. And finally, my voice is given out. The Engine of the Gods. So, pretty much the same stuff as the Stegadon. They do get an additional 2 wounds. And the big thing here is the Cosmic Engine table, which kind of got buffed and nerfed at the same time. So, the 2 to 3 is you suffer mortal wounds. D3 mortal wounds. 4 to 8, you heal everything D3 within 12 inches. That's really good. So he just has a big AoE heal. Fantastic, actually. That's really strong. Then 9 to 12, this used to be... actually, I have it on my phone. This used to be... I wrote it down. So 3 to 5 was engine plus units, 3 inches around, heal D3. It only used to be 3 inches. 6 to 9 was a 25-inch D6 mortal wound. 10 to 13, every unit within 10 inches on a 4-up takes D3. 14 to 17 was summon 20 Skinks, 10 Warriors, 3 Ripperdactyls. And 18 was a double move attack. So they've kind of changed that, where now this is a 24-inch D3 mortal wound thing on a 2-up. And you can also choose a 12-inch. Everything within 12 inches on a 2-up takes D3 mortal wounds. So that's actually a little better for the AoE and not as good for the long-range thing, but I'm kind of fine with that because I think they're going to be in combat a lot more and be around stuff. 13 to 17 lets you summon in 10 Saurus Warriors. That's a pretty big nerf. I would like it if they let you do like Temple Guard and Skinks as well, like let you choose a battle line unit you want, but I guess they just went with Saurus Warriors, so that's what it is. And then 18, everything within 24 inches gets double attacks and can reroll charge rolls, which is still very good. Having double attacks in general is pretty insane, but what I noticed is now when you do the engine roll, you roll 2d6, and if a Slann's nearby, you do 3d6. So that means you can't actually get the summoning things unless you have a Slann. So that's a pretty big nerf, honestly, but I guess that's what they decided to do. And then we have all the bound endless spells, which are going to be great since you can control them, taking things like the Purple Sun for myself, not having other people being able to control it. Autofocus isn't working. And they're pretty good, honestly. They only cost like 10 more. If you take a look here in the back, autofocus, please. This is the end of the video. There we go. Yeah, they legit only cost like 10 more points than what they normally cost. So, I mean, there's really no reason not to take a bound endless spell and not have the other player be able to control it. And then here's all the point values. So you can see. So you can see here. Engine and Stegadon went up in points, but pretty much every other thing went down in points. Except maybe like a couple things. I think the Orruc and Troglodyte obviously went up, but really good in terms of points. I think Saurus Guard actually went up a little in points too. But yeah, Skinks actually went down in points. But that is the Seraphon book. I am done going over it. Thank you for watching, listening. If you're new here, click the subscribe button. Hit the bell to be notified when I upload. Hit notified? I don't even listen. I've been reading this book for like 3 hours and only got like an hour and a half of good footage. So please cut me some slack. If you're new here, hit that bell to be notified. I upload like, two-ish times a week. And I like doing some chill Warhammer stuff. So, also, I need to end this video. Comment down below if you have any comments, suggestions, opinions, whatever you got. And if you missed the last video, that'll be up here too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay? Okay. See ya.